There's no question the Android market is rammed with great handsets from Motorola, LG, Samsung, Sony, HTC and more. In today's video I'm going to give you my long-term review of this Sony Xperia Z3. I've been using it as my daily driver for the past 2 or 3 months now. I'm going to talk to you about a few of the things I liked and also a couple of things where Sony could have perhaps improved on. So we're going to start off with the actual design of the handset. Now they've gone with a glass back finish on the Xperia Z3. You may or may not like this. It's going to probably be one of those things where you're going to have to look at yourself in store. But in my opinion, it's just too slippery to hold in the hand. For some reason, it's the glass finish. It's just extremely hard to hold in the hand. And even when you lay it on a surface, it slides around, which is a bit of a downer, really. But the actual metal rims on the outside are nice, and the overall design of it is, it's high end. They've done a great job. It's just where it's so slippery. I would have perhaps liked to back, say, what you see on a Samsung or an actual metal aluminium finish. So the handset is also IP68 certified, which means it's got to have flaps and covers to actually cover up the micro USB ports and a few other ports, which isn't really a bad thing. It's one of those trade-offs you're going to have if you want the handset to be waterproof. Now, the micro USB port is covered by one of these flaps, so it depends whether or not you like this. It's one of those things. It's also quite nice that the handset comes in quite a few colours. So you've got the black one, which is the one we're going to be reviewing. You've also got the white, the copper gold, a mint green, and also a purple colour as well. So taking a look at an actual handset, on the left hand side we've got the magnetic connector, which is what you use when you use the PS4 remote play or the magnetic charging dock. Just above that you've got your micro USB port under the flap, and then across the top you've got your 3.5mm headphone jack. And then coming down the right hand side you've got your power button and also your volume rocker, which are both in a nice place. You can easily get to them with your thumb, so I'm glad that they've gone down that route and put them down there. Now also on the right hand side you do have the slot which covers your micro SD card and also your nano size SIM card. Along with all of that you've also got the camera button as well. Now taking a look at the specs of the handset, we've got a 5.2 inch screen coming in at 1080 by 1920 with a PPI of 424, 3GB of RAM. Now the model we've got comes in at 16GB of internal storage, but is expandable up to 120GB with a micro SD. Now at the time we're making this video, Android 5.0 is available, but I haven't chose to download it, and I'll come on to that later on in this review and explain why I haven't done. The camera comes in at 20.7 megapixels with a 2.2 megapixel front facing camera. The battery, which is absolutely ridiculous, comes in at 3100 mAh, and we've got a Snapdragon 801 chip, quad-core 2.5 GHz processor and Adreno 330 GPU. Coming onto the screen, they're taking a bit of a different approach here. They've gone for a 1080p screen compared to a few other manufacturers which are coming out with Quad HD displays, such as the new Samsung Galaxy S6 and the S6 Edge. Nexus 6 has got a Quad HD display, but Sony have gone down the 1080p route, and it is perfect. You can't really fault it. I mean, unless your attention to detail is off the chart, you're not going to probably spot a massive amount of difference between a 1080p screen and also a Quad HD display or a 2K display. One of the good things about choosing a 1080p display is definitely the battery. It means that the battery doesn't have to power as many pixels, which in return means a longer battery life. So thumbs up to Sony for that. I'm more than happy they've done that, and the 1080p screen is in fact very nice. It's sharp, it's clear, and watching videos and browsing the web, viewing pictures, etc. is brilliant. One of the nice things you can do is also change the white balance on there. So if it's too cool or if it's too warm, you can head into the menu and in the settings and you can actually change the white balance to custom fit your needs, which is also nice. The 5.2 inch screen is also the perfect size. Personally, I actually really like that size. I think it's the sweet spot. Now, that's going to definitely change from person to person. You may like a smaller phone or you may like a larger phone, but around about the 5.2 to 5 inches is the perfect spot for me. In terms of outdoor usage, I had no problems at all. I could easily see what I was reading, or if I was watching a video or browsing through Spotify or YouTube or Facebook. I had no problems at all doing that. And this screen, in all honesty, is actually a very nice screen. Even though it is 1080p, people may think, I want a Quad HD display, but the 1080p screen is really nice. It's going to make the battery life even longer. And as I said, thumbs up to them for doing this. Now moving on to the button layout, they've opted for the on-screen buttons rather than actual physical buttons on the handset itself, which I kind of like. I've come from the Galaxy phone, so I have been used to using the actual home button. The on-screen buttons, I found them really nice to use as well. So on the left-hand side, you've got your return button or the back button. In the middle, you've got your home button, and also on the right-hand side, you've got your multitasking / recent applications button. Now one nice feature there is if the phone's flat on the desk laid down, if you tap on the screen twice, it will then unlock the phone. I actually found myself using this all the time, especially when you're at work or if it's on your table, just to check any notifications. Double tap the screen and then you're on, which is Nice feature by Sony. Another really nice feature is definitely the front-facing speakers. I'm not really too sure why other manufacturers don't really go down this route, but it's one of the most underrated things and one of the things that I actually find the most enjoyable things to use on a handset. One is that when you're listening to music, and say if you put it on the loudspeaker, you don't want to have to put your phone front face down on the table if the speaker's on the back. With the Xperia Z3 and other phones that have front facing speakers, you can put it on its back at its normal position and the music will then propel outwards. Whereas say a Samsung handsets or phones that got the speakers on the back, you have to put your screen face down and have the music propelled that way, which if you haven't got a screen protector on can easily scratch the screen. Android 5.0 is available on the handset. Now I haven't downloaded it for a couple of reasons. One of them I was reading online and they were saying about the battery life being decreased pretty significantly due to this, so I decided not to do this. That's one of the strong things about the handset is the battery life, and I didn't really want to compromise that just to get Android 5.0. So what I've done, I've downloaded Nova Launcher Pro, or Nova Launcher you can get off the Play Store for a couple of pounds, and it can basically turn your handset into a almost like-for-like Android 5.0 experience, or you can make it really into however you want it to look with all the custom icon packs. Now they've also got their own skin on top when you're using the stock launcher, which isn't too heavy. I could have probably got used to it, but I always like to use my own launcher, so I decided to download that. Now the notification panel / the top bar is kind of split up into two ways. On the actual KitKat version at the moment, swiping down with one finger loads up the notification bar, and swiping down with two fingers loads up the quick settings. So you've got things on there such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, 4G, etc. Now moving on to the battery life, which is by far the strongest point of this phone. It outweighs everything else, such as the camera, the build quality, etc. Now the battery is a 3100 mAh battery, and it's a beast. So you've got a stamina mode, which kind of powers down the phone a slight bit, and it also stops things running in the background, and when the phone's asleep it also stops notifications being pulled through. Then you've also got ultra stamina mode, which totally locks down the freedom of the phone. You're then restricted to applications such as messaging, contacts, phone, alarm clock and things like that. I was using the Note 4 for a short period of time, and that has the rapid charging. Now if the Z3 had this it'd be brilliant, but unfortunately it doesn't. It does take around about 2.5 hours to go from 0 to 100%, which is quite a long time. You're more than likely going to get a whole day out of this phone, so you're not really going to need to charge it throughout the day, and you can then just put it on the charger overnight. When you put the phone into standby mode, it hardly drains the battery at all. So if you're a person that uses the phone every now and again throughout the day for a couple of messages and a couple of calls, then you could probably get 2 or 3 days out of this with ease, especially if you turn it off at night. Now the camera comes in at just over 20 megapixels at 20.7, and it's pretty good as well. I'm not someone that uses the camera every single day and for 20 shots a day. I kind of use it periodically for things I need to shoot. In terms of the 20 megapixels, you can only get this full resolution when you're shooting in manual mode. So when you're doing it in the intelligent autofocus, it won't shoot at the full 20 megapixel resolution. It will scale it down. So you want to get the full 20 megapixel resolution, you're going to have to put it into manual mode and go from there. The manual mode's nice. You can control anything from the white balance, the ISO, the focus, etc. And I'll just show you on screen now how it looks when using the manual mode and what kind of options you have to choose on there. Another nice thing as well is also having the actual camera button on the right hand side. So when you've got the handset in landscape, you've also got an actual camera button in the top right hand corner, which is nice to have. You know, there are a couple of gripes, and one would be perhaps the micro USB port and the little flap covering it, but that's the trade-off you have when you want the handset to be waterproof. Another thing is also how slippery it is. I did put a D brand skin on the back to try and make it a bit more grippy, but when you put those aside and you look at the pros of the handset, I mean, they totally outweigh it. I mean, the great battery life, the screen's amazing, the size of the handset I think is perfect at 5.2 inches, and the battery life is just, well, it's amazing really. So that wraps up the video on my long-term review of the Sony Xperia Z3. You can find us on Twitter at Onecom UK. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well on here, and also leave any comments down below. But until then, I'm Sam from Onecom, and I'll see you on the next one.